So let's talk about, um, okay, so John Donne wrote, really, he wrote at the same time as Milton. And so this was
Oh,
long after Anglicanism was well established in England. And so Milton wrote Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. And Paradise Lost is an epic poem. And he wanted to essentially make an epic poem on the lines, kind of to match the Iliad and the Odyssey or something like that. But only it was about Adam and Eve and God's creation and the creation of the earth and all this stuff. What it ended up being more about was Satan. And in fact, Satan falls. It starts with Satan and all of his fallen angels in hell. Like where they've fallen after God sent them down there, and they're all talking amongst themselves, and they decide they want revenge, and what they're gonna do is corrupt the earth that God has created. And so it follows essentially Adam and Eve all the way through to the point where they are expelled from the garden because of what they've done. So, and then Paradise Regained, which is much shorter, is all about, essentially it's about the temptations that Jesus goes through when he's tempted by Satan in the desert before he goes off
oh,
and gets himself, he knows he's going to die. It's like he kind of foresees his future, but it's all the temptations that the devil does to try to stop him, to get him to be weak or show that he's imperfect. And he passes all those tests and stuff. But he also wrote a play called Samson Agonistes, and I put that in the chat. Um, it's not one I recommend, but it's based on Samson, the guy with all the hair that was
yeah.
super strong, and then his Delilah is betrayed him, but because he shared his secret with her. And if you read the biblical stuff, honestly, it's really kind of funny because over and over again she betrays him, and he just doesn't get it. But in this case, this is Samson Agonistes. It's not a great play, but it's set in the prison where he is waiting to be condemned, and he ends up talking to, like, Delilah comes to visit him and stuff like that, and he tells her how much he's been betrayed and blah blah blah. But then when he leaves, he's going to go out and he's going to knock all the pillars apart, and everybody's going to die because of the biblical story. So Milton was definitely very, very Protestant. He was actually a Puritan. John Donne actually wrote a lot of love poetry in sonnet form, and then he became very devout. He actually tossed a bunch of his stuff away. So the earlier stuff he wrote, we don't have.
Oh,
Yeah, well, and he, from that point on, he wrote holy sonnets. And so they weren't love poems to people or anything like that. Instead, they were dealing much more with holy subjects. But the truth is especially for Puritans, then now that's different from Anglican, but for Puritans, they were guided by a specific set of circumstances, and we'll talk about that. You're also in my humanities class, but for Puritans, even the like associating with people who are sinful or showing any signs of sin was a marker, and it was a marker that you were already predestined to go to hell. And so it was very important that you dress very strictly, that you don't do anything naughty, that you don't give any outside exhibition of any sort of immorality. You don't game, you don't drink in the pub, you don't, hang around with other women, you don't do anything naughty. And you don't even give the appearance of that. And so it was very strict. And the much of it too, if you're going to read, don't read anything. Don't read the Iliad and the Odyssey, for goodness sakes, no. Instead, read the Bible, or read tracts about the Bible, or read sermons that have been published, but only read holy stuff. So there's a lot of that kind of rigidity, and if we continue, if we were looking at this from a historical perspective, then we definitely see much more of that as Protestantism furthers along, but especially in the United States, actually. In this case, though, his stuff was not overtly like super dramatic morality or something, but he does still take the sonnet form, and he's one of the first that really changes the subject matter. Because remember, Shakespeare's was all about, you know, a love. And even if it was, you know, like dad and kid or something, it was, and we don't know that it was, you know, in Sonnet 73, but it was so many of those poems that we read up to this point were about love. In this case, though, he is specifically addressing death. And he's saying not to be proud. He says, death, be not proud, for though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. In other words, he's not afraid of death, the poet. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow. Now you'll notice that this language is probably even more archaic sounding than the Shakespeare and the Sidney that we already read, right? For thou
It,
art not so, for those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow is very
yeah.
formal language, but it's also very Puritan. So Puritans, Quakers, and you think about even later on, the Quakers were known for saying thee and thou instead of you and me or something like that. You and all of you and stuff like that. You know, we say y'all in the South, but they kept it very formal. The speaking was very formal. They had formal modes of address. So did Puritans. So he says, for those whom thou thinkest thou over, so in other words, the people you think you are overthrowing or, you know, destroying, die not for death, nor yet canst thou kill me. So he's saying, you think you're killing people, but you're actually not. They're not dying, and you can't kill me. And he says, from rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure. In other words, I love sleeping. I love resting. I love taking naps. I mean, really, who doesn't? I love naps. I wish I could. I used to take naps all the time, and I don't know what happened. I think I got old and I just can't take them. But I love them. When on the rare afternoon that I have first of all, the time, and then I can actually take a nap, it's awesome. So he says, I like them. I like dreaming, you know, all this stuff is good. Then from the much more must flow. So in other words, I like rest and sleep. So the fact that that's what you would give me isn't a big problem. And it says, and soonest our best men with thee do go. So in other words, the best people are taken the soonest. I mean, you've probably heard that kind of a phrase before.
Yeah.
And it says rest of their bones, so they get to rest their bones and soul's delivery. Now, the soul's delivery is to another life, essentially, is what he's suggesting. So he's saying, you know, the best of us leave soonest and they get rest faster, and their soul gets to be delivered to where it's supposed to be anyway sooner because they're so great. And then he says, thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men. In other words, you can only kill when people kill each other, or when there's, you know, when fate intervenes, or when somebody by chance gets sick, you know, that. So, and he even says, and dust with poison, war, and sickness dwell, and poppy, so drugs, or charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke. Why swellest thou then? So in other words, I could take drugs or I could take a sleeping draft and I'd sleep better than as well as death would make me sleep anyway. And so then he gets to the crux though. So he's talking about death. Yeah, you're not really important. Plus, you know, what's so bad about sleeping? You know, I like sleeping. So why would I not want to be at rest? And so death's not even a bad thing. And then finally he says, and this is not the way most people view death, but he says, one short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. So he's saying, what is he speaking about? What is this?
Eternal life in heaven.
Yeah, soon we're all going to be living eternally, you know. So what's the big deal, Mr. Death? You know, it always, honestly, whenever I read this poem, it makes me think of, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Monty Python or seen any of
Heard
their
of
stuff,
it.
but there's one particular, and it's just a short vignette in one of their movies. And mostly some of their stuff is just isn't very funny, but this one is. And essentially the death comes to somebody's door and they're having a party. And but they all ate the salmon mousse and it was bad, and so they all essentially are going to die of food poisoning. And so he comes up and he's knocking on the door, and they say, oh, just a second. And they go and get the person. They said, there's a Mr. Death to see you. And everybody's like, oh, but we can't go right now. We're in the middle of a party and stuff like that. And it's all very tongue in cheek, but the whole idea of death being powerless, that we get to pick some stuff. We think of death being the ultimate end, and many people view, even religious people, a lot of religious people are quite afraid of death. Even if they trust in an afterlife, there's still a fear. What exactly is after death? What comes after death? And yet he's saying, I'm not scared of you. That's what it kind of is. It's like, nah, 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 I'm not scared of you, because what you're bringing isn't bad. And mostly it isn't bad because it's short. One short sleep passed and we're done. Then we get to live forever. And so this person, I mean, is obviously expressing his beliefs, and yet they're so strong that they make him not afraid. And I'm sure this was, more than anything else, intended to help give people hope so that they weren't afraid either, you know, if that makes sense. But it's not about love. It is an absolute not, I mean, it's not a love. He's not saying, I love you, death. That's not what he's saying. So that's, instead he's saying, don't think you're all big, because you're just a big bully and I'm going to win someday. Which I understand. I think that's cool, actually. And I've never been like, I don't have a problem with death, although some of our students do. I had quite a few who's like, why are these poems all about death? What the hell? People, I mean, the truth is, it's one of those shared human experiences, though. We all have,
Yeah.
none of us are escaping that one. So, maybe that's why. I don't know. Okay, so let's look at some other poems. I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and we'll go to the sample poems. And these are just random samples. Nobody's named that I know of, unless somebody put their name in it. I don't think so, though. I'm just going to make this big, might as well, so we can see it super, super. That's too big. I'll try to make it so we can put the whole poem on one. Now, what I tried to do too is leave the spacing the way it was in the original, because some people put extra space in between the different quatrains. So those 4-line pieces, and it also helped me see, where were they putting their, what were they rhyming together. Most people in this class, in the strictly online class, did they followed the Shakespearean sonnet. So it has the 3 quatrains, each with its little ABAB or ABBA, and then it has the couplet at the bottom. And remember, that's a heroic couplet as long as it's in iambic pentameter. I did have in my other class, though, with Irwin High School, I had quite a few students who actually used the Italian sonnet, and they wrote the 8, the 8 lines, the octave or octet, that had 8 lines with all of it rhyming ABAB or ABBA or something. And then they had CDE, CDE, or CD, 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 or something like that. So,
Huh.
and some people cared less about, different things, but I want to look at kind of, can we see the rhyme scheme? Can we see the structure of it and stuff like that? Okay. So we're just going to kind of
Yeah.
play with some of these poems and see what we end up finding out. And this will be the last sonnet session that we do. So we won't, the one for that I'll do tomorrow morning with my Irwin students will be over new poems. So just so you can know. So it's all on you, Jordan. You got to help me go through and decide what we see in this. So I'm going to read some of it out loud so we can kind of hear if there is a pattern. Remember, with iambic pentameter, it's bump 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 bump. So 5 heavy beats, but they're unstressed stressed. So it starts out a mid, that's actually iambic, Amid the dawn's embrace, we cherish life. That's iambic pentameter. Yay! With each
Yay.
new day, we're grateful for its grace. Also iambic pentameter. So the rhythm's really going. Yay. In every breath, a gift without a price. Somebody knows what they're doing. Our hearts and souls in gratitude embrace. So that's iambic pentameter. So check. Now we already know it's 14 lines because all we have to do is add the 12 plus the 2. What about the rhyme scheme?
It looks like you have on the first line you have life, and then
Mm-hmm.
AB, and then grows and shows and
Mm-hmm.
happiness and
Yeah, and
less. So
price is like an approximate rhyme. At least has the
yeah,
same vowel sound. What about the next?
and then
Yeah.
grows and shows and happiness and less.
Mm-hmm.
So C D,
Yep.
and then break, make, inside, and guide.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? That's a
E.
EF,
Mm-hmm.
and then find and behind. So that's
Yep.
G and G.
Yep. So form-wise, it is absolutely a sonnet.
Woohoo!
Yay. So in each one, let's look at each quatrain. So amid the dawn's embrace, we cherish life. With each new day, we're grateful for its grace. In every breath, a gift without a price. I like that, honestly, this poet too is putting the little commas in. I think that's just, I like it. It works. Our hearts and souls in gratitude. So this is a happy poem. This is very happy.
Oh,
With each sunrise, new hope within us grows. In love and laughter, we find happiness. The world reveals its beauty and it shows in special moments. Life brings us no less. Yeah, this is just, I love this. This is great. And then it talks about this last one, though, talks about the harder stuff. Though through trials faced, our spirits never break. Through storms endured, we find strength deep inside. With grace we mend and brighter days we make. Life's endless journey, our unyielding guide. Aw, I love this poem. This
this
is
is so
beautiful.
nice.
And it's saying bad stuff can happen, but we're going to make it through. It's very hopeful. How wonderful. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. Not that I'm gonna, I mean, honestly, I haven't met a poem. Well, no, there are a few poems, not student poems, but other poems I haven't liked. But mostly I like I don't like The Wasteland. I just don't. It's by T.S. Eliot, who wrote all of the stuff for cats. Well, he wrote all of the original cat poetry, but I just don't like The Waste. I like some of his other poems, but that's not one of those poems. Okay, so let's look at this is a new one. And this was all one. They didn't have separate stanzas, so we'll see what it ends up being. Let's do the rhyme scheme first. So we have day, arise, hide, and lay. It's probably arise and hide is probably an approximate rhyme. So it's A, B,
Yeah, and
B,
then you have
A.
day and lay.
Mm-hmm. And then mine, soul, soul, and it's fine to repeat a word like that. And then ray. So that
Hmm.
rhyme is like A, B, B, A, C, D, D, A. That's interesting.
Huh.
And then you have heart, heart, and start. So it's like, I don't know, E, E, E. But then you have nature, vapor, and that's an approximate rhyme. And then beauty may actually be pointing back to Ray. That's the closest one we've got. So it's an interesting rhyme scheme. It's not, I mean, the truth is, though, there are all different kinds of rhyme schemes for a sonnet. So it's fine to have some variance in there. Remember that one we had, it was like C, D, E, C, D, E, and then the other one was C, D, E, E, C, D, or something weird like that. It was totally
It's
all
all over the
jumbled.
place.
Yeah. So you don't have to, I mean, and it's a lot of us too, we're in most music that we listen to, we don't even have like rhymes on every line. The rhymes are on every other line. So like lines 2 and 4 rhyme and lines 1 and 3 don't. That's very typical in music today. So that's not unusual. But it definitely does have some rhyme in it, and so that I think that's sufficient. Now let's look at the rhythm. Okay, so let's just count syllabi. I mean syllabi. So yeah, syllabuses. No, syllables. Let's count syllables. So as I rise, and as I lay. That's already 7.
Yeah.
I awake. I awake each and every day. So that's 15. Okay. So there are two possibilities. One, they just have lots of feet, or they are throwing in a lot of unstressed things. So it's more like, and I'm just going to type it down in here instead of an I am, which is, that which is what, unstressed, stressed. It's anapest or something like that, which is unstressed, unstressed, stressed. So you could certainly say, as I rise and as I lay, I awake each and every day. So you could put 5 beats in there, but then you have a bunch of anapests. Then you have nature, which is trochaic. Nature has a stress at the beginning, and it's beauty rise. So beauty rise, that's 3 beats total. Each day with me arise. So it's really, it's more like, let's see, it's not pentameter, it's sextameter, or even septameter. Not to be confused with September. Sextameter or septameter. So it's either 6 feet or 7 feet. So the lines are longer. Let's see. But the truth is, remember, what did I say? What was the hardest part of the poem? It's not the rhyme scheme. It's the rhythm. So, I mean, even if ever I could behold, that's 3 beats, the beauty of nature's soul, that's 6 beats. So I think it's pretty much, it has a couple of anapests thrown in each line, but it's anapestic sextameter. So let me put that, well, it's iambic, I'll just put iambic / anapestic sextameter. That's what it is. So, which is okay. It's just that's not necessarily sonnet. And the truth is, I've already graded the other classes, sonnets, and if they didn't do iambic pentameter, most of them were iambic tetrameter. So they were shorter, not longer. This is the first one I've seen yet that goes longer. So even like this last line, which is actually, let's look at this one that's the super long one. The freedom and beauty my country holds, that's 4 beats. It's enough to touch the soul. That's 8 beats. So that's actually, what was that, octameter. So this particular line has two extra beats from the regular for the sextameter. And then this last one, most of all, I can't wait to see the creator of all this beauty. So that's 6 again. 6, but there are a bunch of anapests thrown in. So, and I'm sure if you guys are just watching the video, you're like, what the? Well, go back to some of the earlier videos, and we talk about some of this. This is more than I'm ever going to ask you to do on a test. Okay, Jordan?
Okay.
So you don't freak out. Nobody start crying. I'm not going to, if anything I put on there, remember I said, if I do something like that and I say, what's the rhythm of this? It's iambic pentameter. So if you take the test and you haven't watched any of these videos and you don't know this, you're going to go back to the video and go, darn it, she said this. So, but it's all supposed to be iambic pentameter. But this one's a little on the longish end. I still like what it's talking about though. And it has a lot of the same hopefulness. They have sunrises, I wake each and every day, nature and its beauty, right? This sounds a lot. It has that same hopefulness.
Yeah.
So, and I
It's
love
nice.
too that you guys find so much hopefulness in nature, with the sunrise. Of course, I live in Valdosta, and I usually get to work now before the sun rises. But in the summer, I usually get to work right when the sun's rising, and it's just awesome. I can't tell you how many pictures I've taken and sent to my husband going, look at the sunrise. It's so pretty. And I love sunsets here too. So, and this one also has, definitely a lot of patriotism. I've loved to live in the country, but I can't tell if it's this country, but this one here, it says my country. And it says the freedom and beauty my country holds. So that suggests that that's more patriotism. And then there's also some expression of belief. So you have, I can't wait to see the creator of all this beauty. And that actually speaks back to what the poem we talked about first, which was the death be not proud. So they're talking about that eternity as well. Okay, so let's look at the next one. This is already separated, and I tried to keep it the way that, and don't worry about the sentence, like if there's a misspelling, don't worry about that. It's not going to have any effect on people's grades. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at rhyme scheme first. Okay, so we have a few approximate rhymes, but I think mostly it's unrhymed. The closest we get are misery and pray is an approximate rhyme. And then even shallowness and flesh kind of has, but it's very approximate. And then run and sundown is kind of an approximate rhyme. And horizon kind of goes with sundown, but that's literally horizon and sun and run are the two. So it really doesn't have an ABAB or any kind of rhyme scheme. So that's one way. I mean, this could be blank verse if it's iambic pentameter, but it's not technically a sonnet because it's not rhyming. Would the person still get full credit for it? Yes. Okay. I'm just so that nobody gets their feelings. Oh no, but no, don't worry. It's okay. You'll be fine. Okay. I'm just trying to talk to the people who aren't even here. That's all, Jordan. Okay. But in case you're wondering or getting
Well,
freaked out about it.
it's nice to know we don't have to worry because it's like, I'm pretty new at this.
No, and it's hard. The
It
sonnet form, I
is.
intentionally have you guys do this one because it's so weird and it's so limiting. And so if you can write a sonnet, you can write almost any kind. The only one that's harder is a sestina, which I won't teach. It's just too dang hard. But literally you have to write, they're like seven line stanzas and there are seven of them, and you have to use the same seven words at the end of every of the lines, but all in a different order. And it's so hard. I've seen one good poem made out of that. So, but no,
Oh,
sonnets are restrictive, but once you learn how to do it, and if you can do a sonnet, you can write any kind of poem. So okay, so let's look at this. So let's do my guess is just from the length of the lines that it's going to be it's going to be more likely to be tetrameter than iambic pentameter. But let's listen. Let's see. To be dispersed, or maybe dispersed, comes the misery. To be dispersed comes the misery. Hey, that's 10 syllables though. Crawling out of darkness in disguise. So crawling out of darkness in disguise. So it's a little short, but out, and it's really it's really trochaic. Crawling out of darkness in disguise. So, but it's still five beats. Like the shadows of the night lurking. That's also five beats. Around, ready to devour its prey. So I think the person's wanting to go a little trochaic, and that's okay. Yeah, so that's still five beats. They're managing the 5 beats per line, which is what I was really trying to make sure they had 10 syllables, 5 beats per line. Keep alert, but it's cute because they like the first beat. Keep alert, chanting. Those are trochaic. Your sprint mystery awaits. I don't know exactly what that means. chanting, seeking answers from, and see, now let's look in the second stanza, we have chanting, seeking answers. So that's 3 trochees from the, it's almost like it needs something, because right now we have 3 beats. Chanting, seeking answers, or you could say from the, but that's only 4 beats if you make from stressed. Chaotic mind left in the shallow nest. That's 5. So mostly mostly it's pentameter at least. Oh, I like this one too. Oh, son, the cost of its wages torn the flesh. I just love this expression. This is awesome right there. That makes me happy. It's very vivid and it sounds good. So saddened strike the traitor on the run. That's still, it starts trochaic, but it's 5 beats. Buried in the valley of, you could say darkness, but it's really darkness, but it's still 5 beats. Cry aloud like the morning crow. You could say cry aloud like the morning crow. It just has like a space, a pause in there. And that could be 5 beats. Thy lies the cause of havoc during sundown. And that's actually 11 syllables, but the sundown is the stress. And this is what is called a feminine ending. So it's just got an extra little syllable in there. Yeah, I think they're honestly, as they're going through, they're getting the hang of the rhythm more, which is honestly not surprising. But they love that trochaic beginning. So they love the beat smack dab at the beginning of the line, which honestly, there are quite a few poets who write sonnets who do that. They'll have the first word of almost every line is a trochee, and then the rest of them, and I'll write that in here so people know what trochee is. Trochee. And that just means it's stressed and stressed. And it's trochaic if you're talking about like trochaic tetrameter or something. But this is pentameter. There are 5 beats per line. So, and of course, it's funny how many, all 3 poems so far have used the word joy. And this
Oh,
is sing and joy, the light shine, the horizon, there cometh the end of the sorrow. So it's like, so there's sad stuff, but then here comes the sunshine and it still ends happily. That's really interesting, honestly, that because I didn't tell you what you're supposed to write about. But okay, so let's look at this one. This is a new one, and this is in 3 quatrains and a, a couplet at the end. Okay, so let's look at this rhyme scheme first. What do you see?
I see hold and bold in the first,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have bliss and joy.
Yeah, that's so those. So just 1 and 3 rhyme. Okay, so let's in the second quatrain,
Hide
hide
and
inside.
side,
So it's lines 2 and 4.
song and belong.
And then 2 and 4. And see, that's more like I said, in modern music, it's more likely to be lines 2 and 4 that are the rhyming ones. And then that last one is a couplet. I don't know if it's heroic yet, but it's definitely a couplet. Okay, so of all the feelings, and I want to put the word that right in here just to make it, because that would make it iambic pentameter. Of all the feelings my heart can hold, that my heart can hold, none quite compares to love's sweet bliss. Okay, so none quite compares to love. So this is tetrameter. None quite compares to love's sweet bliss. So it's still iambic, but it's tetrameter. Okay, it lifts me up and makes me feel so bold. That's pentameter. And fills my soul with pure joy. Even if we put both of those be our stresses, fills my soul with pure joy. That's 4. So it's like it's pentameter, tetrameter, pentameter, tetrameter, which is really fascinating. Honestly, ballad stanzas are usually tetrameter, trimeter, tetrameter, trimeter. So this is just a little longer than a ballad stanza. A love that is true is like a precious gem. A love that is true is like a precious gem. 5. A thing, and it just has one anapest. That's the anapestic foot. A thing of beauty that I cannot hide. 5. Its light shines forth from deep within me, and they even put the and in to make it pentameter. You rock. And I don't even know who this is because I just
That's cool.
blindly, but that's awesome. And illuminates the world on every side. That is true pentameter all the way through. Yay. Good job, person. Okay, let's see. It whispers to me in the soundless night. They got it. They totally got it. And sings to me in every bird's sweet song. I think it means fills. It fills my days with joy and excitement. Little joggy on that one. And makes me feel like we truly belong. Yay. So let me adore. Let me adore. Because adore has that stress on that syllable. So let me. Okay, if I were to switch this, and I've already offered people, especially when they had short lines or something, I've made some modifications, just said this is how you could make it pentameter. I would just move that one and change it to a synonym like cherish or something like that. So let me cherish love with all my might, and then it's like ba 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 ba. But adore, honestly, for one syllable, I wouldn't even be picky about it. And hold it close and never out of sight. Pentameter, iambic pentameter. Yay! So,
Wow.
and this is about love. We actually have a poem about love.
Oh,
Yeah. None quite compares to love's sweet bliss. That's true. And it talks, and the person talks about all, how it makes them feel. So they're bolder. They feel like, they can do more. They're more positive. There's pure joy that goes with it. Yay. And this one almost sounds like let me love. Not just my love, but love in general and think that love is great. So, the truth is we get really jaded. There are a lot of people out there who are like super jaded. But there's this person saying, don't be jaded. Don't make me be jaded. So, and it's very much, I mean, it's got some rhyme in it. So and I think that's enough certainly to qualify. And then it's absolutely with very few little changes, it would be completely iambic pentameter, but it does it pretty well anyway. Okay, I think, yeah, this is our last one, which is good because we're at 443. So, okay, so let's look at rhyme scheme first. And again, don't worry about, look at this. Future, future, future. Then we have present, future, future. And really making it is probably more of a rhyme with present. Then we have take, which is almost, it rhymes more with like making it. Like we are making it, except all we have to take. But it's like an internal rhyme there. But predict mine, but the beginning isn't rhymed. And so that's, and even the rhymes at the end mostly are just future repeated, which is really fascinating. So future is used at the end 6 times I'll make sure I've got, yeah, in 14 lines, 6 times. That's really fascinating. And that's actually kind of hard. But you'll notice that everything isn't like it's not, a lot of the commas are in the middle of the lines instead of at the end of lines. Okay, so let's see. Days is going to be stress. So days continue to have mysteries filled. Days continue to have mystery. It's 5 beats, even if it starts out archaic. Though we don't know what the future holds us. I'm not sure what the us part is going to. So we don't know what the future holds. Yeah, I mean, you could certainly say we don't know what the future holds for us. I think that's because that's a thou. I mean, that's not though. I read it as though. So you could say we don't know what the future holds for us, and that's iambic pentameter. So we get up and continue. Uh, Again, I want to put a with in here just to make it more pentameter. So we get up and continue with our lives. That's 5. Mazes we take every day will crowd our mind. Okay, so that's definitely trochaic. Mazes we take every day will crowd our mind, but it ends up iambic by the end. Our decisions, I'm just going to change it, are what holds our future. Okay, our decisions are what holds our future. That's 5. The future is not something we predict. It's funny because there's future again. Future is not something we predict. That's iambic pentameter. A choice we make today creates future. Interesting. Well, future is, I mean, that's the only trochaic part. The rest of it's iambic. Power is all we have for the future. That one's, power is trochaic. All we have for the future. And that's really only 4 beats. Thou knowest the past, but not the future. That's 4 beats. Dream of the future. Focus on present. That's, it's scrambled, but it's 5 beats. Redeemed, it's the present. Fear. Okay, now I'm getting a little confused. Yesterday's past, tomorrow's future. The future's already here. We're making it. A big step is all we have to take. Now this makes more sense right here. So I guess I'm getting, maybe it's because some of them I can't tell if it's plural or possessive. So yesterday, I think he, me, or she, or whoever this is. Yesterday, now yesterday is past. Is that what it means? Now yesterday is past. Tomorrow
That sounds like it.
is, like, I want to put in, does that make sense? Tomorrow is the future. The future is already here. Oh no.
No?
I don't know. But I mean, I think I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, well,
Yeah.
yesterday's over, so don't worry about that. And we're worried about the future, but really the future is right now. And so we need to just go. Like,
Yeah,
just,
and how it says, thou knowest the past, but not the future. So we know what happened in the past, but not the future. We can
right.
dream of the future, but we should focus on the present.
And it even says at the bottom, it says the future is already here. So the present
Yeah.
is like the very first step into the future. Like this
Yeah,
is
it's
the
like we're
first day
making
of
our
the
dreams
rest of
come
your
true.
lives or something. Yeah. Which is so smart. We worry so much about the future. And I'm still doing it. I'm an old person and I still do it. It drives me crazy. And yet we just need to go. We just need to step forward and make the present count. That's all. I mean, the repetition of future is really fascinating. I really like that they were able to use it so many times. Well, really, too. Okay, let's look. I said it was used, what, 6 times in the end? But it's used, there's 7, 8, 9, and so they literally, this author uses that word 10 times. That's awesome. Not many people can do that. So, okay, so it's
Mhm.
not, it's more iambic than it might look. There's also another thing that's a little bit different from the standard sonnet, but it doesn't mean it's not a sonnet. Notice the first lines, that they're not capitalized. So that very first line is capitalized, but none of the subsequent ones. So that's not standard, but it's totally fine. There's nothing that says, oh, the first line of every sonnet has to be capitalized. That's just what a lot of poets do. There are actually some poets, and I'm going to put his name in here. Oh, what is his name? Um, Now I have to look it up. And I'll just do that. I'll look him up. E. Cummings. I knew I'd think of it as soon as I tried to type. But his name's E. Cummings. And he usually doesn't use any punctuation or capitalization. Or if he capitalizes words, they're in the middle of the lines. They're not at the beginning. And he writes a lot of free verse, but some of his stuff is just really fascinating. He's very much a modern poet, but he kind of breaks all the rules on purpose, which I like. I like people who break rules. That's fun. So again, what are we doing? We're playing with poetry. So that's pretty much it. We've played with all these poems. Now you can see how we kind of address poems for the first time that we've never seen before. Honestly, though, and I was impressed with the other class, but this one's just kind of going with it. I'm amazed at how much, especially since this is your first, all of you guys, this is your first sonnet. The fact that so many people, you took so much time to make sure, first of all, I don't know of any that weren't 14 lines, but then you really tried to do rhyme schemes. You tried to follow iambic pentameter. You tried, you really tried to do the things. And yet you also wrote it about something. And most of you, when you wrote about it, how did you come up with the topic and why did you choose it and stuff like that? You really, you spoke to your own experience. Well, let me go ahead, Jordan, since you're here. Let's look at yours. I have not read yours yet, but let's look at yours. But I'm going to stop the recording. So just so that you don't have to be on the ball in front of somebody else. But I would absolutely be willing to look at it now. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, so okay, now we're stopping the recording. Hopefully everybody I'm going to try to give feedback to everybody. So they